Yeah, there's a lot. We're not talking about anything that you would know if you were not a Formula One fan.
I mean, that's unfortunately probably the case with most of our episodes.
And I realize it was like, if I just keep saying Oscar Piastris, they're going to not know that I'm talking about Oscar Piastri. And Sean
Leclerc.
They're going to go to work. They're going to be like, oh yeah, the driver for Ferrari, Sean. Yeah, and all the coworkers are going to be Charles. They're like, nah, I know a guy who has a podcast and he says it's Sean.
He says it's Sean.
We are so much misinformation.
If we're your only source for Formula One, you might want to try Beyond the Grid or F1 Nation just to fact check.
Yeah, just watch Drive to Survive.
Get 70 miles to the gallon on this one.
Yeah.
Trogdor is not a system. It's a man.
Yes. Man, welcome back to the Fast Ones.
Yeah.
It has been a long summer break, but a well-timed summer break.
Yes.
Ozzy, you had a lot going in your life.
Yeah, many things fell off the rails.
Yeah. Hospital trips, whatever.
Yeah.
My life, a lot of things going off the rails.
Just some
jobs not paying me.
Believe it or not, folks, this is also Kevin's fault. Just like many of the flaws with the podcast.
No, he's great. Kevin's still a great friend.
Yeah, bless him.
And we're just teasing him. But shoot, very crazy month.
Yes, not the most
fun month.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you this.
Yes.
This is what has kept me going. And it has been this story from George Russell. The thing that is like made me want to get back to the podcast so much.
Just one statement really pulled you out.
Yeah, George Russell saying that I could have 20 poles and wins by now in a different F1 era. Mercedes driver George Russell explained that without the dominance of Max Verstappen, he could have potentially seen him earn up to 20 victories and pole positions.
Oh.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
In other words, if George Russell would have had 20 wins, he would have been a 20-time Formula One Grand Prix winner.
Yeah.
He's letting us know.
I'm so happy that he feels that way.
And similar things, if George Russell had just had the 2019 Mercedes, and if everyone else had the 2022 Haas car, he would have been the winner.
He would have won races.
It's crazy
that
we didn't realize that.
How in that scenario that's how it plays out.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's really crazy.
Okay, here's an
if I had 20 pole positions and 20 Lance Strolls to compete against, then I would have 20 race wins.
Wow,
this at least by this point.
Big brain time from George Russell.
Big thoughts.
I at first when I saw that, I was laughing.
Yeah.
It's because it's so ridiculous.
It's really not a good statement.
It came in line with the idea that we've talked about in the past that F1 drivers, they need the champion mentality.
Right.
The mindset of a winner. They are infallible. They are the Pope of F1, and every one of them.
They are. Absolutely.
They are perfect, and they need to believe that they would have won in every situation.
And they need to arrive at the paddock in a glass box Cadillac.
Yeah. Yeah. The next upgrades will all be glass Formula One cars.
Sick. That'll be really crazy.
But here's where George Russell, I think, makes a mistake that I think is a good differentiation for us to realize the mindset of a champion.
I'm interested.
And I don't think George Russell has the mindset of a champion.
I know he doesn't, but continue.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. We've known this. Now, now I can prove it.
Are we working together as a team? Are we not?
Yeah. So other drivers, when they have complained, because there have been similar things in the past like this.
Yeah.
They haven't mentioned a driver from what I know. George Russell in this is saying, if Max Verstappen didn't exist, I would be a winner.
Right.
You're basically saying, I'm not better than Max Verstappen.
Right.
That's you just rule number one. You're not a champion anymore.
Oh, so you're saying that you're lesser than someone else.
You are now second place, at least second place to Max Verstappen, always.
Right. I've never heard another driver say, if I didn't drive in the era of Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah. It's
if I drove for Mercedes.
That's it. Because there's a quote from Daniel Ricciardo. They said, if you were driving in the Mercedes, would you be a championship? And he says, definitely. He doesn't even flinch.
Yeah, of course.
But you wouldn't say, if Lewis wasn't driving, would you be a champion?
No.
I don't think you would answer that question.
Yeah, you'd be like,
that's a dumb question.
I would have been.
I would have, yeah. But like, I think that's funny. You can blame the car, you can blame the team, but you can't blame another driver for your failure.
No.
Yeah, because then you are admitting that you are not a good driver.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's what I discovered about George Russell.
I think that that's a good take. I definitely think that George has a complex that I think is very
unique,
for sure, to put it lightly.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's also, I think that he came into this opportunity thinking, I'm coming into the 8-time constructor champion race car.
Yep.
I am going to be the new number 1 driver. Yep. I'm Lewis Hamilton's successor.
Mm-hmm.
And so here we go.
Yeah.
I'm going to win every championship from here.
Mm-hmm.
Go.
Yeah.
Oh
no.
Oh man, it looks fast.
We know he doesn't know what a fast car looks like.
If I were going to say something about that sneaky Mercedes, it looks fast.
Yeah.
Man, no one has ever eaten words quite as immediately as that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's so much of his own like ego that just is trashed. He went from being at Williams and was like expecting world champion the next year.
Yeah.
He's like, I am going to beat Lewis. I am going to be the world champion next year. And it has just been this like kind of public, can't keep it together a little bit. You know, he's won a couple races.
Yeah.
But it just seems like I'm like, this is a struggle of an F1 driver.
Yeah.
Do you understand what it's like to be Daniel Ricciardo, Valtteri Bottas? Do you understand what it's like to be Nico Rosberg?
Yeah.
Suddenly,
he was another person I was going to mention that he doesn't. He's known for saying in equal machinery, I beat Lewis.
Right.
Like he is cocky.
Right. Yeah. It's like beat Lewis is like, have you? I know that there have been times, but also at the same time, I feel like Lewis was like, I'm not even here. But I don't know. At the same time, I don't know whether to credit Lewis with trying or not. But does that matter?
Yeah.
Their car wasn't fastest.
Yeah. Here's my prediction that Lewis, for the rest of this season, will just destroy George Russell. That is my prediction.
I kind of think you're right.
Because George Russell did win that one race that he cheated in. He just blatantly cheated.
He just pulled out a shotgun and shot both tires. No one saw it. It was sneaky.
Yeah, they didn't cover that on Sky News.
No. Yeah. But he's got some tire popping pistols in that car.
But that race, wasn't Lewis's car not performing to the best?
I think it did have damage or something.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I feel like Lewis is finding his stride really well at Mercedes right now.
Big time.
And George Russell is going to get some more hard lessons.
Well, and they've turned a corner so
crazily
abruptly.
Fast.
Yeah. Now that we're seeing the 8-time champs return to form. And it's kind of scary.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that the other teams
Toto
still
is getting more coverage.
Yeah. And his hair's
we really haven't seen a lot of interviews
headphones.
from him, and now there's a lot more. And yeah, it's because they're going to be
I feel like I need to impersonate something really quick. I just like put all my hair forward and then just
that is kind of his look.
That's
not too far off.
And then he sits there.
It is like a headband look. You're pulling the hair back. Now you just need
way to go, Lewis.
Mick Schumacher on one shoulder.
I just need Mick right here, and we got it.
Yeah. So that is my prediction, at least for George Russell's situation, is that Lewis will now continue to outperform him for the rest of the season.
I think you're onto something.
Because Lewis has it in him now to, you can tell that he is ready to fight, and that the car is now ready to fight.
Yeah,
I mean, it's coming.
So, in other news.
Yeah, now let's dive into the news. Now that I've told you of what has kept me afloat.
What has kept the F1 dream alive over the course of the Formula One summer break has been George Russell running his mouth.
So, other news. Now that we've talked about what's keeping me afloat.
I feel like we probably need to talk about the Frenchman in the room.
The big Haas news.
The big Haas news. Yeah. The big stinky
Haas fans.
Big stinky French guy joining the team.
We posted a thing to Instagram.
Yes, we did.
that portrayed our feelings
Yes, we did.
and our concerns with Esteban Ocon coming to Haas. And I think we are justified.
I think so. I think so.
Some people might not like that we have criticisms of the team,
Yeah.
but I think as fans, we want to see our team be the best that it can be.
That's our job.
It's our job, and we're passionate about it.
Yes.
And it's okay to be weary of a driver who has a bit of a dodgy past
Yes.
coming into our nice little family.
Right.
And so with Esteban Ocon coming to Haas, that is where I'm kind of at right now, where I'm like, I was not happy with this.
Right.
I like Ollie Behrman,
Right.
and that's going to be fun.
That's going to be really cool.
Is Esteban Ocon going to be great?
Is he going to be the right kind of teammate for Ollie?
Because
that's a great question.
As Haas fans, we have been so overwhelmingly blessed the past little while with Kevin and Nico, two great drivers.
And like Kevin just goes out there and Saving Private Ryan,
I have never seen another driver just sacrifice himself,
sacrificial lamb
for
the
his
team.
teammate.
Yeah, just so many times.
They are like the best teammates I have ever seen in Formula One.
Who would have thought going into it that would be the case?
Because they were notoriously
enemies.
hated each other.
Yeah, totally.
But maybe like going back to the bottom of the pack, and having to build that up. You realize the fight's not in the team. We're gonna bring the whole team up if we stick together.
Yeah,
and I think the Haas is still right there on its way up. Bringing someone who is notoriously bad,
right,
at working with a teammate,
right,
into such a close knit family is very troublesome.
Well, and I think for me, like, I just historically speaking, Esteban, like you said, has been a rough teammate for Sergio Perez. He was fine with Daniel Ricciardo, but Fernando Alonso got really frustrated with him for going wheel to wheel unnecessarily in races and being like, well, what are you doing? Are we even going for points? Like, what are you racing me for?
Yeah. And then Pierre Gasly.
Yeah. And I mean, Pierre and him have their own,
they have a beef
spat that I feel like I'm like, well, can I judge that one compared against the others?
They have a beef or a LeBeuf.
DeBuff, yes, I forgot.
As we know in French.
As we learned on a very early episode of House Boys. But I think that it's guilty until proven innocent is how I feel about Esteban as far as team player. But Ayao Komatsu said something that I think is pretty profound and I think is a great way to look at this that has me feeling optimistic and I am hopeful.
Yeah.
And like, look, I want the team to perform at their best.
We want Haas to succeed. We're hoping Esteban is the good choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one of the things that Ayao said was, we have never had a race winner in the team.
That's a hard truth.
It's a really brutal truth. And when everybody was like, you're losing Nico. Yeah. And Nico has been killing it for your team. And Ayao bluntly was like, the man has no podiums.
Boof. LaBouffe.
And he's just like, you're going to tell me that Ocon, who has achieved several podiums and a win, is less valuable than Nico Hülkenberg? And he's like, and I just can't agree with you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, these are pretty brutal realities.
Yeah, it's
from
hard.
a man who's been in the sport for a long time. And especially for a guy who's worked with Romain Grosjean and Nico Hülkenberg, Kevin Magnussen. He's worked with all of them.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, hot take, but I think...
Yeah, it's pretty rough, but I can't argue with that.
Yeah. And so I look forward to this next season and having Esteban on board. And I just hope that he learns to play nice with the new guy.
Yeah.
We want to see Ollie get a good start.
Yeah. And it might happen.
Yeah.
Other news.
The other news.
Ever since our last episode, there has been lots of announcements.
Yes.
I think like Carlos Sainz made some announcements.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like Audi is doing crazy things.
Yeah.
Where is Adrian Newey?
Yeah.
What's happening at Red Bull?
Yeah, I mean, still burning building.
They're from within.
Red burning down.
They're now throwing like pebbles at all their glass houses.
Yes.
That was the worst analogy. Cut that out of the episode.
All the glass houses being shattered with rocks. George Russell's with us today in the studio is George Russell.
Oh,
tell us more about the pebbles of glass house.
Shut up.
Red Bull's on fire in the wrong sense. Jonathan Wheatley is his name. He's the sporting director at Red Bull Racing.
He was on Star Trek.
Is that his name?
Oh, it's Joss Wheaton.
Okay, I was like, oh no, did I misremember his name?
Just sounds like
yeah,
actor.
But he's going to be the new team principal at Audi.
Okay, is that good?
Yeah, I mean, he's had crazy success at Red Bull.
Okay.
And
wow.
Yeah, and so that's a big move. It's a big steal.
Is everyone just leaving Red Bull?
Kind of.
Wow.
And this is a big move because that also means that Mattia Binotto is not team principal. Mattia Binotto,
he came out,
is the CEO of Audi.
He's the CEO.
He's going to be the in charge.
There was news that he was going to be team principal, right?
No, he was. So they didn't know. They just said that they had relieved Andrea Seidel.
And for years we had been rid of Matthias Binotto.
Right.
And just like Waldo, he popped out of nowhere.
Yeah, he's just like over there in his glasses.
Like,
in
there
his
he
red
is.
striped shirt. There
and
he is.
We weren't looking for you.
We weren't trying to find you.
Stay hidden.
Counterproductive.
Stay hidden.
This wasn't Where's Waldo? We're like, go Waldo. It's a different book series. Beat it.
That's so true. And he just popped up.
He just appeared out of nowhere.
Okay, and then what was that deal then?
So Andreas Seidel went to Audi to be CEO.
Right.
And he was not team principal.
Mm.
And he was team principal at McLaren. So I think that that's where a little bit of this structure is different. So from what I understand, Mattia will be technical lead, CEO, whatever it is. And the reason that that's of great interest for Audi is because Mattia has such an extensive background in power units.
He worked with Michael Schumacher
in the engine department.
Yeah.
So like he really is an engineer.
He might not be good as like a principal.
Right.
But he's good with an engine, maybe.
And when you're a team principal, you're in charge of driver management, strategies, and things like that. Lots of things that aren't.
Lots of things that fell apart.
And engineering things, yes. Lots of things
Mattia
that didn't.
Binotto was the one talking to drivers and calling the strategies.
Things that weren't going great at Ferrari were clearly things that he was in charge of. Whereas at Audi, that's not going to be the case.
Okay.
And so that's like a slight difference.
Okay.
If he's going to be the CEO, he's not managing the drivers. So where this is a good move, I think, potentially, is that like, well, clearly Audi has an engine program now.
Yeah.
And so this is a move to be able to kind of get that extensive background. But where I think that this is like a pretty big decision maker, or at least like a chip that fell, because we were waiting forever. Carlos Sainz was just hanging in the balance. What's going to happen next?
Yeah.
And then the chip fell, and it's Mattia Binotto as CEO at Audi. And Carlos Sainz said, signed with Williams.
Oh.
Like almost immediately.
Wow. Yeah. I didn't even put that together.
And it's like, that's his old boss.
Yeah.
And he just was like, no.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Do you think Audi was kind of like let down at that? Do you think they expected it?
I mean, it's got to be in the back of their mind.
Yeah.
Because I think that they were banking on it. And where they've had such a good, strong relationship with his dad and had success in racing careers.
True, yeah.
You would think that that would be an obvious switch. But Carlos saw something in James Vowles and what Williams is doing that he felt like it was worth at least giving that a chance. And so I mean, I commend him for it. Carlos is one of the best drivers on the grid, in my opinion. And getting him was a huge move for Williams, and I think that'll attract a lot of talent to Williams to help develop them further.
Yeah,
because there's other designers and engineers that are going to believe in that path. Alex Albon has definitely pushed them forward, but somebody who's been racing at Ferrari like Carlos,
has race wins at Ferrari.
Yeah, it's like he's one of the most consistent dudes on the grid, and so being able to build on that is something that an engineer wants to be able to work with. And so I really think that that's going to bode well for them. But with Audi, they've now gotten one of the Red Bull seniors. They've got Mattia, and things are starting to shape up. Now, there's still an open seat, nothing guaranteed.
They have Nico Hülkenberg in the one.
Nico is the one that's signed. And Valtteri Bottas posted a photo of him with an Audi.
He did, yeah. Do they want another? I mean, he's not German. He's
Scandinavian,
Danish,
Finnish,
Norwegian, Finnish. I think he's Finnish.
He's Finnish, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting to see Audi taking shape It's interesting to see if they're actually going to bring something to the table. I mean, Sauber, Kick, whatever.
Yeah.
It's been pretty trash.
Very, very poor performance so far this year.
Yeah, so, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how that shapes up. But yeah, I mean, those are big moves, but Adrian Newey is obviously still hanging in the balance.
He still is. There was a bit of a turmoil, or a lot of people were talking for a while. Like, didn't he almost go to McLaren, or were there someone said he was going to McLaren?
Eddie Jordan, his
and
manager.
Then everyone said he was going to Aston Martin.
Right.
Like, legit things were being said, like he is coming here.
Like, it's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And nothing still.
Yeah, so Eddie Jordan, who's a former team owner,
Okay.
Is managing Adrian right now. And
He
so,
has a manager, of course he does.
Yeah, well, when you get to that
He's not
status,
just an employee. He's like, yeah, everyone wants him.
Yeah, so in the rumor mill at the moment is that Adrian Newey has been...
Is there any other engineer in the world that has a manager?
No, or that anyone gives a rat's ass about.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
This guy's
like,
a celebrity.
He's a straight legend. and it's like, I think that one of the things that I love about Adrian, and for those of our listeners who probably have listened long enough to know that I do believe in this guy, and one of the reasons that I do is because if you look at the previous generation era of car, one thing that kind of was apparent was that Mercedes became the blueprint. And it was like movies and music and things that we've been talking about, how it was like, oh, the Mercedes car is working, so let's all just copy the Mercedes.
It was the Lawrence Stroll strategy.
Yeah, and McLaren did it too. So like there was this like kind of copycat game going on with like the Mercedes car. But the Red Bull never looked like the Mercedes. It was its own, it was treading its own path. And it's like the school of original thought is Adrian Newey's way. And I feel like one of the things that we saw with this iteration of the RB20, which he didn't seem to believe in as much, which was kind of apparently part of the final straw for him to leave, was that they started to deviate from his original path. And he was like, they went more that Mercedes route with the big tubes, the big bazooka tubes that went down the side of the car.
This happened?
Oh, yeah.
So part of Adrian, like you said, Adrian Newey wanting to leave because they were not following kind of like his.
And these are rumors that
theory.
may or may not be true, but that's the rumor, is that there was a couple of reasons why things were steamrolling in a direction that he didn't like.
Initially, we kind of talked about how there was a lot of internal politics happening with like Joss Verstappen and Helmut Marko, and there's just like very toxic at Red Bull.
Right.
And Adrian Newey wanting to bounce, being like, I'm done here.
Right. But then there's other factors here.
Factors and
where you have Pierre Wache, who's the guy who's taking over, like we said in the last episode, where you're following the Rolling Stones.
You're following the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift just got done playing, and you have to play to all the Swifties.
Yeah. So thanks Taylor for the Eras tour. I'm going to play a couple acoustic songs now that I wrote.
Yeah, this poor engineer has to follow the engineer who has a manager.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like Pierre doesn't have a manager. If he does, no one knows him. He's not Eddie Jordan, a former team owner. The
manager isn't working.
Yeah. And the team manager isn't somebody who freaking owned a team.
Yeah.
So it's a different league. And so for Adrian to want to leave is obviously a big thing. So
that's crazy to me. The idea that you would want to deviate from what Adrian would want.
But that's I agree with that.
You have this guy, like this goose that lays the golden egg. You're like, let's go with this chicken. The goose over here is producing lots of gold, but this chicken might. That's weird to me.
There's a very interesting story about Bernie Eccleston when he bought Brabham. Okay, so Jack Brabham was the name of the guy who started the team.
Okay.
And Bernie bought his team.
Bernie bought Brabham.
He bought the Brabham race team.
Bernie bought Brabham.
I know.
Brabham bought by Bernie.
This is a book. Bernie bought Brabham. I read it to my children.
Bernie's a great children's hero.
Yeah, and it has a lot of like cigarette and alcohol brands in it, but it's a great book.
There's a lot of mistresses and drug use.
There's a lot of like skirting around taxes in Brazil.
It's a pop-up book. There's just like lines of cocaine that you can pull out.
Yeah. It makes the sound of a snort when you pull it out.
Look at Bernie now and tell me he doesn't do lines of coke.
You don't live to be that old.
Without blowing some snow around.
Still have a child that's under 3 years old at 90.
Jeez. Okay,
So anyway, so Bernie Bought Brabham.
Mhm.
And apparently when he walked into the building, he was like given a tour.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the guys who was one of the seniors at Brabham showing him around. And he says, while he's giving him the tour, he says, all right, so who's who and whatever. And he says, well, everybody in here is gets along and understands each other except for that guy over there. And he says, who's that? And he says, that's Gordon Murray. He draws on his little papers over there and he's nuts. No one agrees with him or likes him. Bernie fired everyone but Gordon Murray.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And
this is an amazing
this is a
story
real
so
story.
far. Keep
Yeah.
going.
Gordon Murray is the one who developed the fan car. The one that was so
That would
fast they
suck
banned
itself
it
to the ground.
Yeah. And Gordon designed the McLaren F1 road car and had several successful F1 cars in his career. So
After.
Gordon is known as one of the Adrian Neweys of his era.
And it was after Bernie fired everyone that Gordon had the success.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing.
Isn't it an amazing story?
That's a cool story.
So that's where Bernie was brilliant.
But was he?
Bernie was brilliant and Bought Brabham. The brilliant Bernie Bought Brabham. It's a great book. You guys got to read it. Take the time. In that thought process,
Mm-hmm.
what's amazing is like I've worked at companies, you've worked at companies, everyone who's ever had a career in anything has worked at a company where you feel like Gordon Murray, where you're the one drawing on papers in the corner and everyone's pointing at you being like, no one gets along with that guy.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, I'm actually trying.
Yeah.
And you guys are all like in your clique and ruining this.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's kind of what I feel like's happening at Red Bull. It seemed like, oh, here's this clique of new engineers or something that are kind of gathering together to be like, you're old news, old man, or something. And Adrian's just tired of it.
Yeah.
And especially with all the Christian Horner drama and the two parties that own Red Bull kind of at war with each other over it and all that stuff, he's probably just really exhausted by it.
Mm-hmm.
The things that really seem to be real to me about the Aston Martin deal and the news are the factors of why he might be interested in going there. And it could be appetizing. They have the most state-of-the-art facility. Everyone knows that they just built that enormous new factory, which is still not fully online, which is why the car is kind of suffering.
The Aston Martin car?
Yeah, it's because they're sort of between factories. They're sort of figuring this out while they move.
I want them to figure it out soon because Alonso's not getting younger.
That's the truth. We're all hoping that it happens quick.
Yeah.
You're like, get this figured out. But the opportunity to work with Alonso is a huge reason for Adrian to want to go there. He said that was one of the unicorn drivers that he'd wished he'd worked with. It was Lewis and Alonso.
Wow.
And so where Ferrari supposedly come up short, not wanting to pay him, Aston was willing. It's still in England. His former number 2 at Red Bull, Dan Fallows, is the number 1 at Aston Martin right now. So he'd be reuniting with somebody he already knows he can work with. And he gets to continue to do road cars like the Aston Martin Valkyrie, which is something that they have announced is going to go into endurance racing.
Oh,
which I think is another
that could be fun
feather
to see.
in the cap of something that he can't do with Red Bull.
A lot of good pros in that column for Adrian Newey.
I think so.
Yeah,
and it's becoming more and more convincing. It's at first it just seemed like billionaire daddy who wants billionaire son to win races buys the best designer in the sport. That's kind of the way the headline reads. But when you break it down and you see all the reasons why Adrian might be willing to do that, it sort of makes more sense than it sounds on the headline.
It's crazy. Lawrence Stroll sometimes feels like he is just like in the right lane, going like 100 miles an hour, like he's doing so good.
Right.
And Lance Stroll just happens to be in the sidecar.
He's just there.
Yeah, and Lawrence might forget that he's there.
Lawrence forgets, and then he hits a sausage curb, and Lance goes flying.
Because
We've seen it a few times.
I can see Lawrence just being like, "Oh yeah, we're developing a new factory or whatever. We have a new wind tunnel. Everything's gonna be great. We have Alonso. Adrian Newey might be coming." And then he's like, "Hi, Dad." He's like, "Ah,
I did."
It's just like the Dwight and Angela.
Go back to your room.
Just yeah. Who the? Oh, Lance, my boy.
You're the biggest mistake I've ever made in my life.
You're still on the team, right, boy? Good.
Oh, the Netflix cameras are here. Come here, son. Come here. Did they leave? All right, go back to your room.
Petting Lance.
It's a very interesting dynamic.
He lets him out of his cage.
Let's match his cage.
Lance has like a giant gerbil, like water feeder, and he just licks the water.
Dad, I'm running low on water.
And then they let him out for the race.
Yeah, exactly. Then
They let him out to do press junkets.
Yeah. They realized after this Seb Vettel drift contest that they're like, we probably shouldn't have him do any more of these.
Let's start winding those down.
Let's do less of those. It's probably
we have
good.
Alonso. Alonso's got some charisma.
He can do
Let's
that.
get him out there.
Yeah, and if we need someone else, let's get Vettel back.
If anything, if Lance does anything weird in public, let's at least have Alonso in the background giving a weird eye.
Yeah, so that way
we know we're in on it.
So that way people zoom in on Alonso and use that as a meme. As opposed to
It's so
Lance.
true.
It's a good strategy.
It's so true.
So, but I think the only thing that makes me feel like Adrian Newey's character from all the books and stuff that I've read and everything that I know about him, that would make me think that where Aston Martin might not be his first choice. Because I just feel like the dude's like, he's just kind of punk rock. He's kind of Black Flag, minor threat about like who he is as a guy. And like that's what made him leave McLaren and go to Red Bull, was just this opportunity to be like, you know what, like screw this really gray indoor company that is boring me. I'd rather be at the loud, brash
Energy
marketing
drink
company.
yeah.
That really doesn't belong here. And see if we can make that work.
Yeah.
And I think like when I look at Aston Martin, I go, that's not Red Bull. And I think that the only thing that really suits that mentality is going to be Ferrari. But if Ferrari's not willing to pay for it, then I don't think it's going to happen.
It's weird that Ferrari wouldn't want to pay for that. They have Lewis. They have one big piece of the puzzle.
Right.
They also have the other big piece, which is they are Ferrari.
Yeah, they're just an Italian stallion.
And they
for
need
real.
a championship. It's like the curse of the Great Bambino type of deal at this point.
It has turned into the Red Sox. They have
It's
become
like,
them.
do you need the cure to your curse? It might be Adrian Newey.
Might be found in the best car designer ever.
Yeah. Do you want to fork out the money?
Yeah.
No.
How come you were willing to pay Lewis how many hundreds of millions?
So much.
But you can't pay Adrian 25 a year?
Yeah, no. Would they let an English guy save their Italian company? Really?
No. That's the Steve Nichols story. Guy who graduated from the U. So Steve Nichols.
Okay, we talked about him before.
Graduated from the U, designed this car, the MP44.
Yeah.
And dominated the most dominant Formula One
local
car.
boy.
Yep. Most dominant Formula One car in history before the RB19, which then now has taken the cake.
Yeah.
But Steve went to Ferrari with Alain Prost. And he's the one that said that like when they were building a car and they went to test it and it was coming down the straightaway and the rear spoiler was flexing in the middle. And he was like, why is it doing that? How's that possible? It's like, I've done all the equations and everything. There's no way that's possible.
Yeah.
And so he took the drawing to the design office and like to the people who were making the wing in Maranello. And he was like, so I have the drawing here. The wing was flexing down the straightaway. Can you explain to me how that happened? And the guy goes, we got your drawings, but we didn't make it like that.
Oh, gosh.
And Steve was like, oh, that's
why
how
am
it
I
works
here?
around here.
Why am I here?
Yeah. And
jeez,
I feel like that's kind of the ongoing theme with
it is Italian.
The
Yeah,
Italian.
they're perfect. The design. Yeah.
It's just very, it seems like that's very much Ferrari's problem.
It's not how Mama Ferrari would have designed the car.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And nothing's bigger or better than Ferrari.
Yeah,
So
holy cow.
That's a fear.
I bet. Yeah, that's crazy. What is Steve Nichols doing now?
He's just retired. He still lives in England.
I was gonna say, does he live in Utah?
No, I wish I'd friggin' blow him up.
Get
Be
him
like,
on the
yo,
show.
dog, come down the straight and have a chat with your Utah boys.
Steve, my element is shaking at 60 miles an hour.
I got a weird wiggle. Weird wiggle. The hell you talking about?
Finding one of the most brilliant car designers in the world to talk about your 2007 Honda Element.
Yeah.
Can you fix this? I guarantee that there's someone who really doesn't know who he is. And they're his neighbor in England. They're like, Mr. Nichols down the street.
Oh, yeah.
He knows cars.
Yeah.
Take the Cooper over to him. See if you can fix the brakes.
I broke a bolt in this hole. Can you help me get the bolt out? Did you imagine?
He's like Ayrton Senna drove my car
to victory.
He's a legend.
Legend.
But yeah, I'll fix your bolt.
But yeah, I'll tap the hole really fast.
Because I'm a Utah boy and we're nice.
And we do things for people.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Any other news? Before we go into race week.
Yeah, there is one other piece of news that I wanted to talk with you about.
Yeah, what is it?
So we've discussed Kyle Larson before.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard this name.
Yeah.
Do you remember who he is?
He's a NASCAR driver.
He is a NASCAR driver.
Mm-hmm.
And he did the double, which was...
2 races in one day?
He did cocaine and the Indy 500, which was never before seen. No, but the Coca-Cola 600 and the Indy 500 double was his attempt this year, but because of rain delays and things didn't pan out.
Dang.
But he was able to run in the Indy race, and he performed well until he got a penalty because he sped on pit road. He locked the brakes up coming onto pit road. Kyle has really made a lot of waves in motorsport universe this season because of how profoundly quick he was in an Indy car, which is nothing like a NASCAR. And so the fact that
two very different disciplines.
Yeah, an open wheel car versus a NASCAR are very different.
Yeah.
They weigh nothing the same. And so there was a lot of buzz around, he can drive anything with wheels, this guy. He's great. And I think that that's true. But Kyle Larson said something in a quote during the summer break in an interview where he said, look, I know that I'm faster than Max Verstappen because I drive so many different disciplines and I win in those various disciplines.
Yeah.
I don't think that you could put Max in the Chili Bowl or Knoxville Nationals where they run on dirt and expect him to win. And he's like, but I go and I win those. And he's like, so you can quote me saying that.
And Max Verstappen was like, I don't think about Kyle Larson.
Exactly. He's like, who?
Interesting.
So it's created quite the stir.
Yeah. Because people are probably now asking the question.
Yeah, this is a boxing match suddenly. Who's the heavyweight title between the two of them?
They're going to go on go-karts together.
And or like a sim race or something. People are like calling for blood. Like, prove it.
Yeah.
Prove it. You think you're the fastest, then prove it. And a part of me is kind of like, yeah, Max, prove it. Come out and prove it.
That could be fun.
I'm sure he would trash Kyle, but there's a part of me that thinks that like he's not wrong about what he's saying about like the Chili Bowl or Knoxville Nationals.
What is the Chili Bowl?
These are sprint cars that like slide on dirt sideways with like the weird fins.
Oh, the fins that's offset weird. Oh, yeah, that's weird.
And Kyle dominates those.
Okay, so?
And so he's saying like, he's like, look, I race so many different types of race cars that he's like, I don't think that Max is faster than me because I have raced everything. Max has raced go-karts and Formula One cars. That's it.
Yeah.
And so he's saying like, I don't think you could expect him to win at those, but I do. And so I'm like, he's not exactly saying, I think he does say at one point that he just said, I know I'm faster than him is what he says. Which is the part of that quote that got really blown out of proportion.
Yeah.
But I think the real point of his comment is that he's faster than him on dirt and in NASCAR.
Yeah, there is an argument that's like, I'm more versatile than Max Verstappen.
Yeah.
It's like LeBron James doesn't care who's playing in the 3-on-3 tournaments in the Olympics.
No, and he doesn't care who's the best netball player. He's not going to say, I'm going to beat him.
And in the All-Star game, they're not competing in the skills challenge where they pass through targets.
Right, yeah, exactly.
None of those guys are champions.
No.
Yeah, so it's like, he's like, I don't care.
No, you don't
haven't
play
won
basketball.
an NBA championship yet.
Yeah, you don't play basketball.
You haven't raced in Formula One.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. It's interesting.
Kyle's fast in an Indy car on an oval. The one thing that I haven't seen him like necessarily prove outside of that is, are you fast in an Indy car at Laguna Seca? Are you fast in an Indy car at Long Beach? Because those are going to be the moments where you prove that you could race an F1 car in Monaco.
Yeah. How do you handle chicanes?
Right. But right now it's like he's fast on road courses in a NASCAR. But again, it's not an open wheel car.
Yeah.
So you don't know when to pick up the throttle and when to hit the brake. It's just, they're not built the same.
Yeah.
So anyways, all that to say, it's caused quite the stir.
Yeah.
And a part of me is like, All right, I'd love to see you guys prove it.
Let's do it in the off season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's take the gloves off
Mm-hmm.
and then put them back on.
Surely,
And go race.
Max Verstappen is always racing online.
He is.
Surely there is an account of someone who races with Max Verstappen who Kyle Larson could sneakily just jump on and race against Max Verstappen.
Right.
That could be the most underhanded, funny thing in the world to get Max Verstappen to unknowingly race Kyle Larson. He would just be using someone else's account.
Yeah, you just jump on.
The username would be like Jeffrey A. Peterson.
Hillbilly 42.
Yeah. And it's Kyle Larson.
Is Kyle Larson.
Yeah. So if you are a listener out there, you happen to race Max Verstappen regularly,
Yeah.
would you be willing to give up your account to Kyle Larson?
We will,
And for how much?
orchestrate this if
we
you
know
are.
it. We know both of them.
we'll make it happen.
Uh-huh.
I know how to make it happen.
That's cool.
So, anyways, tell us what you think, though. Listeners, I do want to hear, do you think that Kyle Larson is faster than Max Verstappen?
Yeah.
Or do you find it as ridiculous as the rest of the world?
Yeah. Shifting gears.
Shifting.
It's race week.
It is.
Yes. Where are we going?
Zand.
By the beach.
Yes.
The sand.
We get
is what I call it.
Yeah, the Zand.
The Zand in the sand.
Yeah.
Why do we call it that?
I don't know.
It's like the rumble in the jungle.
Yeah, it sounds like Crofty should know this. Crofty, we're gonna write you this. You gotta use it on
that's a t-shirt.
Yeah.
The Zand in the sand.
We're gonna put our toes in the Zand this weekend.
It's great. It's great.
It's a good one.
This is the course with banked corners.
Yes.
This is the course that last year, Oscar Piastri was just perpendicular across the track, and Daniel Ricciardo, rather than killing Oscar Piastri,
a
viable option,
the guy who took his seat,
he diverted off the track and broke his own hand.
Yep.
To save Oscar's life.
As just a true American hero.
Yep.
This
American saved that Australian.
But yeah, this is the track. This is the Dutch Grand Prix. So this is Max's home track.
This is a crazy looking circuit.
And last year it rained so hard at points during the race.
This is one of those tracks where it has big banked curves, and they roll the stroop waffles down them to be like, look how steep the banking is.
Right. Yeah.
It's like any circle would do that. Any circular object will roll.
Will roll on a slight incline.
But I do want a stroop waffle now.
Thanks for saying that. Now I feel less fat because I was definitely thinking about it.
Yeah.
But I think that last year was a crazy race. I remember thinking that I was very impressed with Liam Lawson for jumping in the car and not crashing because it was wild dynamics of dry, wet, dry, and he managed to have a good race. It's crazy volatile on like what kind of weather they're gonna have, and it's right there on the ocean, so it's just like comes and goes quickly.
Yeah,
but it's a really cool track. It's old. It's one of the oldest circuits they race at.
Wow.
And I don't know. I like this track.
Yeah, and I was gonna ask you the question: who do you think who's likely to win? What are predictions?
No,
there is
answer.
no prediction.
There's no answer.
Listening to some of our last episodes, and we talk about Oscar Piastri was the 7th winner this year.
Yeah.
Holy cow! Who's winning the next one?
I don't know.
We have no idea.
But since we've gone back to Zandvoort, no one has won but Max.
It would be fun to see the upset.
So it'd be very fun to kind of
and the Dutch silence the Dutch crowd.
Yeah, we'll get that orange army and make them not jump around.
Douse those orange flares.
Yeah, it's about time somebody put those up.
That orange.
We're gonna put those up.
Yeah, get rid of that orange sea.
Yeah, exactly.
Of fans.
Or they just do the Lando Norris and be like, "Oh, I love my fans." This is one of my favorite jokes.
I think Lando has lost his sense of humor.
I do too.
Yeah,
we'll see if it comes back.
No, he's not happy. Yeah, to silence that because they're just gonna be black. Max, super Max.
Yeah,
it'll just be done. Yeah, I have no idea who to even put my money on.
I don't either. Sergio Perez.
Unlikely.
Yeah.
Dude.
We didn't talk about that either.
No, we didn't talk about the conspiracy of Sergio Perez maintaining his seat at Red Bull.
Because of Disney Plus.
Because of Disney Plus.
And because of Liberty Media supposedly saying that ticket sales at the Mexican Grand Prix aren't closed yet.
Are you kidding me? Yeah. That And I watched some guy break it down like that, and I was like, that's not a bad argument.
It's not a bad argument.
That Sergio Perez is bringing in chunk tons of money.
Well, all of his Mexican support, right? It's Telcel, Telmex, all of the sponsors who have brought money to the team, all the merch sales that are happening at Red Bull.
Yeah.
The Disney Plus series is something that
all
it's
about Sergio Perez.
Yeah.
Like that releases and he's not on the team.
Yeah, it's like you're going to tell me you're going to drop him before we've even released the first season?
It's crazy. Do you think Red Bull knew what they were getting into when they brought Sergio on?
I don't know. I don't know that I expected any of this to happen. Yeah. I wouldn't have guessed that they were going to make a
Red
Disney
Bull,
Plus
who
show
we've always
about
thought
him.
was like so ruthless.
Right.
Like you're gone. Driver, you didn't perform well, you're gone.
Right.
Now they're like scared to get rid of Sergio.
Right.
Everyone knows what's in his contract and that he's not meeting it.
Right.
Anyway, so he's probably winning it this weekend.
I mean, good for him. I would be stoked if Sergio won a freaking race.
Yeah, it's
been ages.
Yeah, summer break is over. Who knows how the cars are going to be performing?
Yeah.
It'd be great to see Haas up there fighting double points for Haas.
Be
That's
killer.
what I'm hoping for.
I think that we're going to see McLaren really fighting for this one.
Mm-hmm.
Their car is quick in the high-speed corners.
Mm-hmm.
We saw that in Saudi Arabia and stuff. And so
Zandvoort
has a lot of twists.
Cool.
See if the McLaren can do it.
Yeah, maybe they'll get a twist out of the race.
Maybe we'll see if Lando moves over.
Yeah. All right. Well, we did have one question.
Oh, let's
from
do
a
it.
listener. Because we did have people actually write in to be like, hey, where's your next episode?
Yeah.
And we're like,
Some were a little more threatening than others.
Haas chap.
Yeah. we won't name names, Henry.
loving threats from the Haas chap. But okay, so this comes from Sam.
Oh.
He says,
just kidding.
He says, I feel like I keep seeing PT Cruisers everywhere on the road. Like in nice condition. I saw the biggest bro in a convertible PT Cruiser today. What's going on? I need a new collectible car. Are they secretly a fast one?
No. No,
they're
not even remotely something that I would recommend for anyone.
Yeah.
They're the worst.
Yeah, what's going on?
They're awful cars.
Are they now? I mean, they've always probably been cheap.
Yeah, they're just awful.
As soon as someone drove it off the lot, it would probably $500.
Did I mention they're awful?
Yeah, they're the worst.
The interiors are so terrible.
I haven't been in one.
You can't even see the gauges. They're tiny.
Really?
And the idea behind the car was that it was supposed to be this cute little modern interpretation of an old Ford hot rod with the kind of V-shaped nose.
I can see some of the design DNA inspiration there.
Right. So it has that kind of pointy nose.
But it looks so bad.
And the dash is sort of simple and it has a lot of retro inspired throwback ideas. But it also is this postmodernism idea of design, and so it's really bubbly and awful.
Yeah, that's where they missed it.
And it's no, this isn't.
It's also kind of small,
right?
So it doesn't make it look terrifying, like a cool hot rod.
No, it looks like Naboo.
It does.
It's got a
Naboo like the
theme.
city skyline of Naboo.
Yeah. It's just the big dome thing that they store all of the fighter jets
when I see PT Cruisers, or no, this is a PT Cruiser, right?
Yeah.
Sorry. I get it mixed with Plymouth Prowler, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, anyway,
there's an argument there.
Yeah.
PT Cruisers. I always think it's the car that Michael Scott drives, which is a Sebring.
Yes.
But that's what he would drive. He would drive a convertible PT Cruiser.
Yes, and the Sebring is arguably just a Mercedes SL that they ripped off and made a Chrysler badged version of.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe a PT Cruiser. I don't know. The younger kids like cringy things.
They do.
And it is a cringy car.
They're like, I'm going to play an Ibanez and wear Go Fast sunglasses. And I'm like, you guys don't understand how hard we work to get rid of this. Do you get it? Do you understand how hard this was to do away with as a society? These are not things.
We fought for so long to get rid of Jinko jeans.
There was a good period of life where we were like, Kirk Hammett and Metallica are embarrassing. We do not play Ibanez's.
Yep.
And we saw a rise in Gibson and Fenders, and now it's just back.
They're driving around in PT Cruisers.
And they're just like, PT Cruiser, listen to Smash Mouth. Like, what the heck?
Oh, geez.
Just kidding. For all of our Gen Z listeners, we love you.
Yeah. Hopefully that answers your question. If you have any questions, send them in.
That is the answer to the question. You had it.
Yeah.
It's just a cringy next
They're cringy. They're
group.
into cringe.
Yeah, they love cringy crap.
And they're probably poor.
Yeah.
So it matches.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good things cost money.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the truth.
Porsches, Mercedes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, good things.
And those will be timeless.
Yes. Not PT Cruisers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, follow us on Instagram. Watch this on YouTube.
Yes.
And then stay tuned. We have more episodes coming.
They're coming, and we've got great things lined up, so I'm excited to share them with you guys.
Cool. All right.
Talk soon.
The Zand.